Hey there, everybody. Hi. Welcome to Class 10. Class 10. If you have been here every single night, high five, or watched every night in the replay, that is awesome. You guys are committed to quality childbirth prep. I'm saying I'm quality. I try to be quality. I try to bring quality. It makes me so thrilled to see familiar names in the chat like Larica, Ashley, Natalie, Tara, Kayana, Brandon. Oh, first time chatter, long time watcher. I love it. Thank you, Brandon, for making that leap into the chat. You are welcome. I think you get more out of it personally if you chat and respond back. So glad to have you, Brandon. If there's any other quiet watchers that are wanting to chat today, get on in there. Get on in the chat. Welcome. Hello to Roberte. Hello to Killian. Sending some really good labor thoughts to Larica, who says she is, let me put on the screen, laboring at home right now, which is amazing. I cannot believe, Larica, that you are actually the second person to watch this class and let me know from the chat that they're in labor. Last series, we had Tim, and Tim was the main chatter. I don't know if I ever know his partner's name. It's not locked in. So Tim and his partner were watching from the hospital and like live chatting what was going on. It was awesome. So now that's two. Now every class I teach, I'm going to like hope for somebody to be in labor in class. So cool. Hello to Dabu Doodles. Welcome back. Welcome back. Hello to Cynthia. Hello to Tani. Hello, everybody. I cannot believe we are at class 10. Like seriously, at the beginning of it, I feel like, wow, we've got 2 full weeks. And then now it's like, we only have till Sunday. And I'm looking at our subjects that we have coming up. Last time on day 13, I did like a catch-all where I had like little tiny pieces of information on different topics that I did all on day 13. This time, I thought it would be important to do information about preparing for postpartum. So 13 might be postpartum prep and possibly some catch-all things. So if there are some topics that, we haven't covered yet that you're still interested in hearing, let me know in the chat or send me an email or something. Yeah, so it might have been Amanda, Tara. Was it Tim and Amanda? I know Jeff's wife was Amanda, who had their baby during class, not in class, but yeah, we've had so many great people join this class. I love it. I love it. I had to kind of listen to some music today to get me pumped up for class. Does anybody know what song I listened to? Wouldn't it be so cool if I could play a song for you without worrying about copyright? You know what song I would pick, I think. I want to say it's from the 80s. Salt and Pepper. Amazing song. So we're talking about pushing today, and we're going to talk about counterpressure. Pushing, here's what I suggest. I mean, every time I suggest take notes, ask questions, but I'm going to show a few pushing positions. And I really recommend if you are a person that has pushing in your future, I think Natalie said she had a week till pushing, then I recommend trying them out with me. So here's the thing. I look a little dumb. And, this is live for the world. Not that the world is watching, but they'll probably at the end of it, we'll have 1,000 people watch it, hopefully. And I'm going to be pretending to push. It's going to make me feel so much better if I know on the other side of the screen, you guys are also pushing. Do you think, can you let me know in the chat if you're going to actually not push, but get in the pushing positions? So let me know if you will be doing that, and that's going to make me feel better. Okay, yes, Natalie, push it, right? Wouldn't that be so cool? Okay, and I have another camera. Hold on for 1 second. Because this is going to be my hospital bed over here. I don't have a single person yet in the chat that has told me that they are pushing. Come on. Don't let me be the only one. Okay. Things we're going to cover today is how do we know? Kayana, yes, thank you. I love it. Love it. Tara says, of course. Okay. For birthday will. Yay. Okay. Okay. Whew. Good. Things we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about how do we know when it's time to push? How does the atmosphere change? Sort of some changes in control and who's involved and that type of thing. We're going to talk about revisiting the birth plan, tearing versus episiotomy, a little bit about the baby, but most of our baby information about the baby, like cutting of the cord in detail and that type of stuff, is going to be on class 12. So I'm not going to go thoroughly into baby. I also want to talk about partners, what they can do specifically during pushing. And then we are going to move over here to the hospital bed and talk about some some pushing positions, the classic pushing positions, alternative pushing positions, and get into a little bit about assisted delivery. So about, forceps, vacuum, all that. So that is all in store. If you are following along in the book, we got the book here, and it is, I have like 100 Post-it notes everywhere. Is anyone else a Post-it note lover? We are following along page 11, 12, and 25. So check that out. I sent out some more kits today. If you ordered a kit, it should yesterday after class or today, it should have gone out today. And if it's not too late, even though we're on class 10, I don't think it's too late to get the value of a kit. I mean, it sounds kind of silly, but this fan is like the best thing. It's like the perfect tool. I use it at every single birth, and I'm going to talk about it with pushing today. Not to mention the good info and the cheat sheets. So, kit still available, $19. You know the spiel. So, I will start with, how do we know when it's time to push, right? How do we know? A couple things. When I talk about pushing, Killian said, got your book? Yeah, good reference. Especially that page with all the, we've got the pushing positions on page 46. I don't know if I actually referenced that. 46 is also pushing positions. And the fan. Oh, Rachel got her kit today too. Good. Hey, Rachel. Welcome back. I like this, Kayana. Our bodies know when to push. So, yes, our bodies do. Let's talk through pushing. It is a different experience with epidural versus unmedicated. So you're going to hear me say like, this is this, this is that, this is this, this is that. So I want you to know both scenarios, okay? Without an epidural, so no pain medication, when it is time to push, usually your contraction feeling is low contraction. Like if I said, where does it hurt? You would be low. Remember, we'll be doing our breathing. A lot of times at that peak, remember we're having those peaks of contractions. A lot of times pushing comes along where when we get to the peak, it's like, oh, I really have to poop. Really have to have a bowel movement. That's what it feels like. And then it kind of feels like a contraction. Then as time goes by, those contractions, they're less contractions and more like, here comes a contraction, lots of pressure, feel like I have to poop. And you even hear it a lot of times in people's voices or the way they're breathing. And it's funny as doulas, like I'll hear this sign and I'll look over it if there's a nurse there, the midwife, and be like, did you hear that? Yes. So, and what it sounds like, say I'm in labor. And sometimes people will look like, where did that come from? I just kind of bear down uncontrollably, right? That is that natural urge to push that comes. And when does it come? It comes when the cervix is completely open, 10 centimeters, completely thinned, 100% effaced, and that the baby is a low enough station that is giving that pressure. Sometimes people feel the pressure first in their rectum. Sometimes they feel it first in their vagina. Usually they feel it first in their rectum, and then it kind of moves to the vagina as the baby's kind of pushing down on the rectum into the vagina. We get to talk about all the good, fun stuff today. Yes. Yeah, Brandon, totally. Right before you poop. That's exactly what it feels like. But sometimes you do poop, and we're going to talk about that too in a minute. Let's talk a little bit still about how it feels. So when you are unmedicated, you generally feel the contractions change to just that urge, that wanting to bear down, that needing to feel that all that rectal pressure and vaginal pressure. And at that time, it's a great time to press the nurse's call light and let them know, like, hey, things are changing. Sometimes people can feel a premature urge to push when maybe they're 9 centimeters or 9.5 centimeters. And that can be hard to work through. You still have to use your breathing, movement, all your tools. But usually at a hospital birth, they usually want that cervix all the way out of the way. Sometimes a midwife or a doctor might say you can start pushing with your cervix if there's just a little bit, like a little lip or so. A lip is what they call just a little bit of cervix left. So you will feel the body knows the body's working. So what happens if we have an epidural and maybe we're not feeling much of our contractions, right? We might be able to know when they're coming, but we might not. With an epidural, both are very common. We see both ways. And if we're not getting checked, how do we really know? How do we know that it's not time to push? Well, the baby gives us some signs. The fetal heart rate can give us some signs on the monitor that the baby is low and starting to enter the vaginal canal. And what happens when the baby is that low, sometimes on the monitor, you'll see the contraction go like this and the fetal heart rate match and kind of dip at the exact same time. It's almost like the fetal heart rate goes down. That was so bad. One's going down and one's going up. Contractions going up, fetal heart rate's going down. And sometimes if they start seeing that, they think, oh, that might be the baby's head being compressed. And we might need to check and see if it's time to push. So the monitor can clue us in to what might be happening with. Now, hold up now, Jonathan. We are nowhere near the Ring of Fire yet. But we will talk about Ring of Fire. So what happens with pushing is the Ring of Fire happens right as the perineum is at its stretching to its widest diameter, the perineum. So baby's head is at the end. But where we start feeling the urge to push, baby is in the vagina. Okay, so baby is still in the vagina. So station is not quite at the perineum yet when you start pushing. So when you start pushing, we still have a ways to go before we see baby's head. So if you have an epidural and they start seeing this on the monitor, these signs, I'm glad you asked about the Ring of Fire though, Jonathan. When they start seeing these signs, the nurse or your doctor, your midwife might come in and say, you know, we might need to check your cervix and see. It looks like you might have might be time to push. If you have a lighter epidural or it's worn off some, you might yourself start feeling, usually it starts, like I said, rectal pressure, where you'll say like, gosh, I've got some significant rectal pressure, like something is different. Sometimes, many times people think their epidural is wearing off, where they'll say, I can feel everything. Every contraction, I am feeling it. Well, the thing about this baby in the vagina is that, and I think I talked about this with epidural, is that you can't take away that fullness, pressure feeling of the baby's head in your vagina with the epidural. Sometimes people do have such a heavy epidural that they don't feel that. But I would say a lot of times people are starting to feel that pressure. Now, backwards day, does anybody remember that concept, backwards day, where we are going to try to mentally take things that feel like they might be negative and turn them positive? Having that feeling, being able to know when the contractions are and having that sensation can actually help you be a more effective pusher. So think about that. If you're planning an epidural or, seriously thinking that you might have one, anybody really should think about this, that at the end, be prepared for hard work of pushing and possible discomfort sensation. But we've got tools and we are near the end. Okay, so when you know you're near the end of something, usually it's more manageable. If you have you can see the end in sight, you can see the finish line. It's like, okay, I can do this, right? Okay, you guys can picture that. So when it's deemed time to push, when either you're feeling that urge or you are 10 centimeters, the scene changes. The scene changes. And what I mean by that is the scene in your hospital room just has a different energy. So what usually during labor, you spend a lot of time really just alone without a nurse or a care provider. Sometimes, they'll come in, check on you, monitor you, leave, do your vitals, come back and forth. But usually there's not someone there like the whole time. So this is where it changes that a nurse, at least, is pushing with you the whole time. So sometimes it feels a little weird, like, oh, here you are. We've been doing this on our own the whole time. But they are there to help support, to help give guidance. Sometimes they act as the director, where they have a very set and prescriptive way that they like people to push. Sometimes this is really beneficial if you're like, just give me some guidance here. And sometimes it can feel a little pressured, where you're feeling lots of pressure to do what they want and follow their guidance. Like, okay, it's time to push. Move that stuff off that table. We're going to get off the bed. Blah, blah, blah. We need to do this, kind of like ordering around. So I've seen it kind of take people by surprise, like, oh, wait, okay, sometimes you might need just a moment to regroup your mind and be like, okay, let me center myself. We're doing this. This is going to be an active part of labor. If you had been asleep when this happened, so if you had an epidural and you were sleeping, which high five, that's what I want you to do. If you have an epidural, it can really throw you off because you're like, you were sleeping. They woke you up to tell you, it looks like you might need to push. And then they're like, oh, you need to push. And then you're like, oh, so you can always say, hey, can I just have 5 minutes to wash off my face, brush my teeth, or just something to kind of wake yourself up. Pushing doesn't have to start immediately. Usually it's not okay, must begin, because pushing, especially for first time you give birth, it's usually at least an hour, 1 hour to 3 hours. So it can be a long time. Okay. Let's see. Questions. Thank you. Drink your water if you're playing along. What if they want you to push, but your body doesn't feel ready for it yet? No epidural. Ask to wait. Absolutely, Kiana. Say there should be no hurry. If you're not feeling the urge, and as long as there's not a concern with the baby, like a fetal heart rate issue where they're saying oh, baby should probably get born, which, if you're not feeling the urge, then baby's probably not far down. But yeah, you can wait. You can wait for that urge. Good communication with your provider for sure. Killian, that sounds ideal. Just get woken up to push. It can be great, right? which is, I mean, I absolutely want, if you're considering an epidural, try to sleep, 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 sleep. And hopefully you'll be sleeping restful, sleeping restful, sleeping restful until it's time to push. Yeah. Oh, Gabriella said, it took me 5 to 10 minutes. Whoa, that's amazing. 3 pushes. I wonder if that was that first baby? Sometimes we can see epidurals can be so heavy. And I don't know, Gabrielle, if you had an epidural or not. But I want to mention with an epidural, I want to mention a concept that some providers do, which is called laboring down. And Natalie, I'll get your question. It's a great question. Just one second. Some providers and some hospitals, it kind of varies by policy about laboring down. What laboring down is even if you are ready to push your body as far as open, dilated at face and all that, if the baby is high up and not really low, and you're not uncomfortable, if you're fine, you're not experiencing like a lot of urge, sometimes they'll say, let's let you labor down. And sometimes in that laboring down, they might put you in a seated position. So, okay, no more sleeping, right? We got to wake up. They'll get you more in an upright position. And then they'll just wait. And what they're doing is they're waiting for the body to, on its own, bring baby down lower so that your pushing phase will hopefully be shorter and easier. Now, there was some research recently that was kind of left that up to question, didn't really show much value in it. And I know a lot of labor and delivery nurses that I've spoken to and doulas about it were kind of like, I don't know, this research wasn't real conclusive and it didn't show any problems with laboring down. So a lot of hospitals aren't doing it. It allows more rest. It allows baby to get hopefully to a lower station before active pushing. Okay, so I know Natalie said, how long is each push? So each push is for the length of the contraction. So you're only pushing for the contraction. So contraction starts, most people push about 3 times, and that's what I'll kind of demonstrate over here in a minute for each contraction, and then you rest, okay? So it is very important. But when it's time to push, and this, the crowd changes, sometimes it can feel crowded in the room, sometimes it can feel hectic. Sometimes there's a lot of setup, like they have to set up the table, the delivery table with like instruments that most of them won't be used and that kind of thing. It can feel a little rushed. So I really want you to think like, how can I center myself? Maybe you want to put on a playlist that's different, like a pushing playlist, or the music you want your baby to be born to. I know this one awesome family that had Bob Marley that they wanted to listen to for the birth. And it was just like the coolest. It just like jived so well. It was so awesome. So, think about that. The other thing I really want you to do is to revisit your birth plan or your birth preferences. Like, what were your preferences for birth, for pushing, for any of those baby things? If you have any, and you will think, if you don't have any, and we talk about it, you will think about them. Revisit them it's a good time to talk to your nurse about it. Hey, just a reminder, we really want that skin to skin. Just a reminder, we really want partner to announce the gender of the baby. Different things, whatever it is. That's a good time to talk about those preferences. And you have plenty of time, even if you're pushing, because the rest is a great time to just remind about those things, about preferences. The other thing that I encourage you to do, I think it's helpful, is to really designate one clear voice of the person you're going to listen to. Pushing can get really exciting for the people who are not doing it, almost like, go, Harder. Yes. Come on. You got this. And if there's more than one nurse in there and your partner's in there, it can be like everyone is like right in your face. So you can always say to your nurse, like, I'm going to listen right to your voice, or your midwife or doctor. And you can say to your partner, like, if you can just, be here quietly, and like, I'm focusing on your voice. So sometimes if you are, that kind of conversation is easier to have if you have an epidural. If you are unmedicated, you are a lot of times just in a zone where there's not time to like talk. You're really just sort of in that zone of like pushing, breathing, and everything kind of melts away a bit with unmedicated. So, but with an epidural, I really suggest that. And I have a video. Oh, Anissa has a question. If baby is high and you are complete, is pushing enough even if the contractions are becoming far apart? That sounds like that's a hard like scenario for me to just say yes or no. I think I would have to know more about all of the factors in that, like how high and how much time and how intense are the contractions. It matters. It is natural. It does happen with unmedicated births that the pushing phase, ding, ding, ding. And the transition is like right on top of each other, contractions, and then pushing. Sometimes we see the contractions lengthen a lot of times. So we will have more like every 4 minutes apart than every 3 minutes apart or 2 minutes apart. And that's a difference. That does make a big difference. Okay. So we talked about when we know it's time, the scene change, laboring down, taking that moment to recenter, regroup, maybe change your music and that kind of thing. Partners, I have a lot in the Supporting Her course about partners and pushing, but I want to give you a quick summary of my favorite things partners can do. One, have a washcloth, a cool, wet washcloth ready to go to wipe away any sweat that does happen. Pushing is a lot of work. Have a fan ready to go, any kind of fan. Have that low voice, encouragement. And then to take care of yourself before pushing starts, support people. Make sure you go to the bathroom and empty your bladder before you start supporting somebody pushing, no matter what. I want you to hear my voice because pushing is intense. And if you are helping like hold your partner's leg or, you're like really supporting her closely, it is hard to like sneak out and go to the bathroom. And sometimes pushing can be 3 hours. And so go to the bathroom before. When you're on your way to the bathroom, grab a snack, grab I got distracted a second because I saw an old friend from our last class in the chat. Hello, Judy. Welcome, Judy. Welcome back. So go to the bathroom, grab a bar or a snack or cheese stick or turkey jerky. That's big in our family right now, those like jerky sticks. And eat it, shove it in, make yourself eat it in the bathroom. Also refill water and ice chips if she has an epidural, water if not, right before pushing starts. So you have everything at the ready. So you're not having to go around, and also have lip balm ready to go. Okay. That is a good piece of advice. Yes, the bathroom. Go to the bathroom. The lip balm is so important. Just reach over, put it on, because all the blowing gets just dry lips on your partner. And here's where I'm going to talk about pooping. Okay. Pooping can happen during pushing. What happens is the rectum is right next to the vagina, like inside. So as the baby is pushing down, going down into the vagina, it's compressing the rectum. And whatever's in the rectum comes out. The good news is, the good news about pooping, who says that? Let me know in the chat if you've said that. Maybe you have. Actually, when you have a baby, you talk about how good pooping is all the time when they pooped and all that stuff. But the thing about when you are pushing and you see poop come out, like the nurse or whoever, it means the pushing is going well. It's actually it's something that as care providers, and support people, when my client, passes a small bit of bowel movement, I'm like, great. That means you're doing it right. It's a positive sign, because before, like Jonathan was talking about the ring of fire, before we can see the baby's head, we don't see anything. So we don't really know unless someone sticks their fingers in to see if there's any movement. So if we see that poop comes out, that means that we're pushing the right way. Everyone's quiet in the chat when I start talking about poop. Take a sip of water. Yes, it is embarrassing. It can feel embarrassing. Most people are uncomfortable about having that happen with them. But, a lot of birth can be new experiences, and being ready for them, having partners that are ready. I like to tell partners, if you see anything, like any bowel movement, any poop that comes out, certainly don't mention it. I mean, some people have that relationship where it would be appropriate, but a lot of people don't mention it. If either person is super sensitive to smells, I recommend having something like lavender, peppermint, something you like an essential oil, put it on a napkin or a paper towel from the hospital, and just put it up by your head. Just put it up there. Just lay the paper towel with a few drops of this nice smelly essential oil. And that's a good thing for partners to do as soon as, it's time to push. Grab the washcloth, get the fan, eat the snack, go to the bathroom, get the nice smelling stuff, and just have it ready so that you just have good peppermint smelling stuff. I like peppermint. But of course, I always ask, whoever I'm working with, but peppermint is a real fresh one. So, okay. Let's see. I got a little bit behind on contractions. Yes, Gabriella, if you are having contractions close together and you start feeling rectal pressure, it's not because you have to push. It's the baby. Yeah, I think that's what you're talking about. Yes, Anissa, it looks like hospital birth is becoming a place where the mom is the one who is delivering baby by herself. I don't necessarily understand that. I must have missed a comment somewhere. Are the muscles used to push the same muscles used to poo? Basically, yeah. They are, when you are bearing down to push, the only thing and the main thing that you can relate it to is pooping. So if you've ever been constipated, if you've ever, struggled with a bowel movement where, can take some effort and some breathing, some bearing down, maybe some noise, maybe some grunting, that is what pushing is like. That's exactly right. So Anissa, sometimes people feel an urge to push with an epidural and sometimes people don't. Yeah. I love this, Judy. Judy, I bet you have a baby in your arms. I can't remember when you were due. Remember that nurses, doctors, midwives, doulas have seen it all and are expecting it. Absolutely. Absolutely. And aren't fazed by it at all. Zero. I talk to my kids about this when I'm talking about birth, and nothing phases me at all. Yeah. So, yes. Tara said, yes, I know Nurse Zabe. So it said it's totally normal. A good nurse will quietly wipe it and not say a word. Yes. Now, not all nurses are good in that way. Sometimes they will make a deal, or sometimes they will just cover it with like a washcloth and leave it there, which keeps the smell. So sometimes if we, that's my preference too. Let's see. Natalie says oh no, that's Rachel. Let me get Natalie real quick. Laxatives with induction and pooping with pushing. We sure are an open group. I know. I was thinking that too. Like, well, it's like I should have like a little bing. I actually, when I used to teach at this one class in person, I had one of those little bells, like, like if you show up at a hotel, like an old-fashioned hotel or something, and no one's at the counter, and you're like, bing. There must be a word for them. I bought one of those, and anytime in class we talked about like any of those sort of non-cocktail party, not appropriate and in a group, we would just ding the bell. So bing, 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 bing. We've added a lot of those. Yes. Okay, good question. Concierge bell. Yes. Thank you, Dabba Doodles. Do people with or without an epidural tend to have a faster pushing experience? I wish that I knew the statistics on that, because I like to give you guys like hard evidence. I would say that, well, let me tell you this, that this will give you an idea. The American College of OBGYNs they say that it is appropriate to give someone with an epidural up to 6 hours in the pushing phase. Now, this is not common, but they give, if you have an epidural, 6 hours. So non-epidural, I think, is appropriate about three-ish hours should be enough to push, but extended for epidural. So granted, it's so all over though, you guys. I have seen both ways, long without an epidural, long with an epidural, it's just, usually though, after you've had a baby vaginally once, as long as the baby isn't malpositioned, the second, third, fourth, whatever baby, the pushing phase is greatly reduced with subsequent vaginal births. So it's like, if you can get through that first vaginal birth pushing, you have shortened the time for any future vaginal birth pushing phases that you have. So congratulations to Judy. Yay. I love it. If you want to share your story, Judy, not right now during this class, because I got to talk about pushing, but later, I would love to hear your story. Congratulations. I love it. Okay. Let's talk. I'm going to show a video. Remember, when last we left Amanda and Nathan, she talked about her epidural experience. Well, I love her pushing experience because she actually shows a very clear pushing phase where she is feeling every contraction. So she is able to, and she has the epidural, remember? So she has epidural, but she still is feeling pushing, and she's pretty active in pushing. And it starts off with her partner, Nathan. They're like listening to this. They put this special music on, and you'll notice what he's doing in the video. Okay, so you guys, I have not shown a single slide. I was so into being ready to push that I didn't even show a slide, but that didn't matter, right? We are going to go here, and I'm actually going, oh, you know what? Hold on. I need to re-add this to the stream because of the audio. Everybody's watching this, take a sip of water and get comfortable, because when we come back from this, we are going to get in our pushing positions, okay? So I'm going to be over here, and we're going to be in the pushing positions. Okay, so we're just going to watch a couple minutes. Just warning, there's no like graphic. We're not going to even see the full birth. We're just going to show a little bit of pushing. So I'm not going to show anything that would be hard to watch, I don't think. So, okay.
Incredible, Dave. His head is right in his feet. You're doing so good.
Okay. We're back. Hello from the hospital bed. Okay, let me know. I can't really see your chat here, but I will take a break and check on the chat in a minute. So things that I noticed with Amanda and Nathan is that he was helping her go from, she's kind of doing, you can't necessarily see her legs, but it looks like she's in kind of a semi-reclined. And during the push, he is helping to help her kind of curl up and supporting her neck. That is a great thing for partners to do. You guys also probably saw the fan. Did you also hear his really great, sweet, low voice where he was saying, you're doing amazing, really in a nice low tone. And then during pushing, you can't really see her care providers. They're kind of off screen, but you can hear them saying, that's it, you got it. So that's pretty typical when we're getting direction from our care providers on how to push. So I wanted to just show this, a semi-reclined pushing position. This is very, very common that I would say probably vast majority are in the hospital bed where you are kind of semi-reclined, probably have pillows behind you, probably have pillows here. And when the contraction comes, either you take your own hands, put them behind your legs, and hold your legs up like this. And you're tucking your chin under and pushing like this. Breath in, push. And I'm going to talk about what to do with your breath in a minute. But push, 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 push. Breath in, push, 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 push. Big breath in, push, 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 push. So and I'm saying push, push, push is really just like pushing. Some people have done this, is a good alternate also to put your heels together. It can be more comfortable this way. The old school of putting your feet up in stirrups, like you would have with a pap smear, is an older sort of standard. I don't really recommend it because you don't have the same power that you do from holding your own legs or even with your partner assisting holding a leg. Okay. So legs up. This is very common. Now it goes against what we learned about the upright to push, right? The get up, stand up. But I always want to show that position first because it's a common one that is recommended. Okay, so let me know in the comments if you have, Jonathan said, was holding my breath the whole time. Oh my gosh, Jonathan, so many times I have found myself standing at the bedside and going and then I'm like, what am I doing? I'm not the one pushing. Okay, so an alternative to the semi-reclined position is side lying. And for side lying, you usually kind of have one arm this way. You're in on the side, and then when you can let your legs rest together during the resting phase, or you can kind of just set your leg up like this. But when the contraction comes, you would want to open up your leg like this, or hold your leg back like this. And this side lying position is great for unmedicated or medicated. And, remember our pelvis is jointed, and having that asymmetrical open, like we do with the side lying, you would want to do that with one side, and then you would maybe for 5 pushes, and then switch to the other side and do 5 pushes. There has been research that says babies that are born in a side lying position result in fewer tears of the perineum. So I'm just saying, file that one away. Okay, so side lying. And here's what I want to show you is, I don't have my slides up, but there's really one person in control, really in control of pushing. And let me know in the chat if you know who that person is, okay? And I'm going to check to see if you get it right, but I'm going to tell you what it is. It's the person giving birth. Because if you want to move, unless you have an epidural that's so strong that you can't actually move your body, which is very rare. But if you want to move and advocate for yourself from this position to a side lying, the best thing to do is just after a contraction, say to your team, I'd like to move and try side lying, and then just do it. Okay? I know that sounds like, I don't know, what if that sounds like? Hopefully that sounds reasonable. But if you just move and say, I want to try side lying, can you help me try side lying? There should not be an issue with that. And I really, really recommend this position. There's a lot of benefits to it. And it's so good to switch it up too. If you do some of the semi-reclined, that's great. Then do side lying. That's great. I'm checking on my side lying. Okay, great. Verte. So if we don't have an epidural, or we have good coverage, good feeling in our legs where we can still hold ourselves upright, then the leaning over the back of the bed to push, I don't know how long this can go. Leaning over the back of the bed like this is great also. And one thing that we have seen recently is that having your knees open and your legs open, your heels open is good. But another position that we're seeing can be a good one to try, is knees together, heels open. Okay? So you're leaning on the back of the bed and pushing that way. Okay. Checking my notes while I'm over here. So upright. You can also push just like standing if you don't have an epidural. Leaning, standing and leaning, right? My camera angle is all off now. Okay, give me your questions and I'm going to move you guys back. Hello. Hold please as I reposition you. Was that helpful seeing me in those crazy positions? And were you trying it? I want to know. Tell me. And what did everybody think of Amanda's birth? How are we? We're 2. Tell me that. Okay. So one person is in charge, really person giving birth. So if you want to move, move. And that's really, that should be one of your mottos in labor. If you are doing something that's like hurting the baby or like endangering you or the baby, they're going to tell you. I mean, they're not going to be like, Alice moved aside lying and now she just screwed everything up. No. So don't be like, they will say, no, this doesn't look good for the baby or something like that. Then it's like, okay, good. Oh, the sound wasn't great. I'm sorry. Oh, my echo. Sorry about that. I need some softness in here on the, I should have brought my microphone. Duh. Next time the microphone needs to get closer. By the third time I teach this class, it's going to be seamless. Maybe. At least I didn't have to get the hairdryer today. For those of you, if you know, right? Hashtag hairdryer. You guys know in the chat. Okay, child's pose. Kayana said, what about child's pose? Birthing in child's pose. Pushing in child's pose. That's a new one for me, Kayana. I don't really know. Hands and knees definitely is great for pushing. I don't know about child's pose. Brandon says, wife thinks the upright on knees position makes the most sense. Gravity. Yeah, it does. If you have the ability, if you were like, if you're unmedicated, certainly. If you have the ability to hold your legs up, huge, which makes me remember something. And O'Neill, welcome back. Oh, the sound for the YouTube video. Okay. I'm going to definitely get all this tech working. Diana C says, would there be any reason your doctor doesn't want you in a certain position? Yes. Actually, there is. Great question. And this kind of, that with this other thought, I want to put them together, which is great. Thank you, Diana. So pushing can be long. So say it's an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever. It's generally for first timers, especially first timers, pushing is long. So a lot of pushing, like vast majority, comes before we can even see the baby's head. So if we pushed for an hour, maybe we saw the baby's head the last 12 minutes or 15 minutes. We saw some kind of baby's head. Yeah. Let's say 3/4 of that, we don't see baby's head. So some providers, some doctors, some midwives have a position they prefer catching the baby in. And I've kind of gone back and forth as a doula on this topic. Part of me is like, power, like you push in whatever position you want and birth in whatever position you want. And I do feel that way. But there's also something realistic that I know, that the person that's catching the baby, if they're not used to catching the baby in a position that they don't have experience in. So perfect example is like hands and knees. Plenty of people in the world give birth on hands and knees. But if your provider doesn't have any experience in it, then they aren't going to be the best at it, which means they aren't going to do some important tasks during pushing, during the crowning and the ring of fire, which I'm about to get to, like supporting the perineum. And if they aren't good at that position, you might consider pushing the vast majority of your time in whatever position you want, and then the last part in the position that they're the best in, so that you can have, and you can even communicate to them and say, I know I really don't want to tear. It would like help preventing tearing, preventing injury to that tissue. What is your preferred position? I want to make sure that I'm in that for when the baby's head is crowning. Something like that. Let me know if that made sense. Okay. So reclining, side lying, upright, hands and knees, legs knees out, knees in. All of these are great. And movement is still our friend. Movement is still our friend. I will tell you, and I don't like telling you this, but I want you to know the truth, that a lot of nurses don't like changing it up. Like, they're like, get in this position, do it this way. This is how I've seen it work. I'm going to manage it. And that's okay. But remember, you're in charge, and you a lot of times just have to advocate for yourself. And what I've also seen is, at that point, sometimes the person giving birth is just like, whatever, just tell me what to do. I'm tired. So partners sometimes can be like, side lying is supposed to be really helpful. Let's give that a try. How about we move into that right now? And kind of being that advocate, or remember Alice said that there's less tears in side lying. Can we give that a try? Don't forget movement. Maybe you just need to change it up. So you might need some spurring on, even though I know that you're the one that can move, but you mentally might need a little bit of a reminder of why it's important. Okay. Kayana said, how does my support person support my perineum? So usually the perineum is supported by the person catching your baby. So usually it's the midwife or the doctor, because it's supported right as the head comes out. So let's talk about that perineal support and stretching. I cannot believe it's already 56 minutes. What the heck? Did this go fast for you guys? Let me know in the chat if you're like, it's already 56 minutes. That's crazy. Okay, as baby is crowning, that is where our perineum is stretching at its largest percentage amount. The skin is stretching, and because the skin stretches to a certain point, we feel the ring of fire if we're unmedicated. So usually, if we have an epidural, we don't usually feel that ring of fire. But I will say the ring of fire is, I used to explain it that it's like short, intense, and then done. But I have had people recently kind of explain it. They don't explain it that way, but I don't know. That, I guess I'm going with my personal experience, which I don't try to base things on my personal experience, but my personal experience and then talking to other people that have gone unmedicated. Usually it's like a short amount of intense sensation, and then it numbs the skin. Here's what's mind-blowing. I'm glad you guys think class is going fast too. Here's what's mind-blowing is that when unmedicated or medicated, if you experience a tear in your perineum when the birth happens, you often don't know. So you don't feel that tissue being torn, being injured, because of the ring of fire has this like natural numbing effect. That's what's happening. It's really crazy. I've had people both tear and not tear, and they'll say, did I tear? Everybody says that. Do I tear? Did I tear? Because you don't know. I'm sure there's exceptions, but that's the vast majority of time. That's like, is anyone like surprised by that? I know that I was. If the baby is low enough in station where the baby can be seen, baby's head, some part of the baby's head can be seen from the outside of the perineum. Okay. So this is the perineum. So vagina, anus, baby's head. If the baby's head, part of it can be seen, and the provider either feels like you aren't able to push the baby out on your own, baby is having heart rate issues, or for some reason the baby needs to be born quickly, they might suggest an assisted delivery, which in the North America, the option is usually a vacuum. Forceps is only for some of the older doctors that were trained on forceps. So a vacuum is where it's like a suction cup they put on the baby's head, and then as you push, they are pulling at the same time and assisting the delivery. So I know I went through that kind of fast, But when we talk about the baby, I'm going to revisit that a little bit so that it feels a little bit better. Hopefully it's a little more clear. Episiotomies. Yes. Natalie said, can you explain episiotomies? Yes. Episiotomy is when a cut, often with a scissor, is done, a small cut on the perineum, say maybe like this, cut to increase the vaginal opening, increase the perineum, and allow the baby to be born quicker. Now, there was a huge study that came out, and it was about, so I've been doing 6 years, I want to say like 13 years ago, a significant amount of time ago, that said tearing is better for if you are going to have an injury to your perineum tissue, your perineum, a tear is usually less of an injury and heals better. So most doctors who are practicing evidence, research-based medicine are not doing episiotomies standard. I know some of them are. I know some of them in Atlanta are. So I know they exist out there because I remember them. So great thing to talk to your provider about, but it's clear that a tear is better. So an episiotomy should only be done because the baby must be born quickly. We don't have time to allow the perineum to stretch or tear on its own. Okay. Perineal massage. Do they actually help with tearing? There is some evidence that perineal massage, which is massaging your tissue like in your last few weeks of pregnancy, sort of stretching out your own perineum, does it help with tearing? There is some small amount of evidence that does show that. But I'm not a huge fan because I kind of feel like prepping the body for labor in that way, like the body knows what to do. I sort of have this natural belief in our body. So a lot of people hate doing a perineal massage, so they put it off and they dread it. And so I'm kind of mixed on it. Mixed. Oh, this class goes fast. Roberta says, right before I started pushing, my doctor massaged my perineum for about 5 minutes. I'm sure that's why I didn't chair. So Roberta, I'm glad you brought that up. So some providers will kind of massage and stretch your perineum while you are pushing. And sometimes that helps, like in your case, Roberta. Sometimes it is often actually, when a provider stretches your perineum for an extended amount of time, it swells up the tissue and actually increases tearing. So we don't really want a ton of like stretching done by our providers because it can increase swelling. So that's kind of controversial. Whew. We did a lot today. How are you guys feeling about pushing? Do you kind of do you have a little bit more of a mindset? There is one big, not elephant in the room, but one big topic that I didn't really go into detail like I probably would want to. I'm just going through my slides, make noise if you want. And that is how to breathe. And what's kind of purple, it's called purple pushing and just like natural urge. So many, it's very common that providers direct you to push in what's called purple pushing. Great. Thanks you guys in the chat for letting me know how things are going. Purple pushing. So it's like a big breath in, keeping all that air in and pushing. Not even a noise. Pushing. Let the air out. Pushing. That is generally what is kind of instructed. Remember, I said some nurses are more like directing and trying to do that. But I will say that sometimes it feels better to people to do more of a grunting, like a kind of a noise. I get to do all the fun stuff. I love it. Or even like blowing out a small stream of air. So the purple pushing, the holding your breath and pushing is, while it's very common, a lot of nurses say that it's the best way to go. It's not. Evidence doesn't say it's best. It really should listen to what feels right for you. So it's something I'm going to probably bring up again when we talk about the baby. Okay. Yes. And yes, I saw sometimes warm washcloths. Yes, Tara, warm washcloths sometimes put at the perineum as the baby's head is getting close to crowning can help relax that muscle tissue. Yeah, great. Oh, good. O'Neill says different pushing positions. Yeah. I think being able to see, and that's the thing of not being in person. I just want to make sure you can see it. Seeing that sideline position, I think is like, it's so clear, like that's easy. That's not that different, right? This with our legs or this with one leg. And if you guys tried it out, you'll feel like, okay, that's doable. So if you didn't try out, then that's your homework to try it out. Okay, so we've got 0 minutes for counter pressure, which I knew would happen, which is totally cool. Because in our homework, in the homework below, the playlist for our homework, which is supporting her /homework 10, is my counter pressure video that I did with my oldest daughter. Watch that, okay? It absolutely goes through everything about different ways to do counter pressure. And I would love, if you watch that video, please leave a comment on the video and let me know which of the methods is one that you think you will use the most, looks the most interesting. So there's 34 people watching this live right now. Oh, 33. I just lost one. Maybe I can get 33 comments on that video with feedback and let me know what you thought of it. Or if you had a question, if you have a question on it. So are you guys up for the homework? I hope so. Thanks so much for joining me tonight. I love Killian said, one of the favorite classes so far. And Natalie said, one of my favorite. Good. Having to push next week. I love it. Next week. That's so huge. Your life is going to change next week. And I know there's some other people. I have some insider knowledge that there are some other people in this chat that I'm thinking might be pushing next week too. So it's an exciting time for a lot of you guys. And it's just the best. Childbirth. What a journey. What a journey that you're going to be on. Okay, cool. We did it another night, 10 nights in a row. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you guys sticking around, being here. I'm looking at my topic list because tomorrow we're covering cesarean birth. Don't skip this class. Sometimes I've had people say, I'm just going to cross that bridge if that happens. And I don't want you to do that. I want you to be prepared because 1 in 3 people have a cesarean about. So I want you to make sure you're there. And we will get to our comfort coping measure toolbox tomorrow. And we're going to talk about removing fears and just some strategies for just ridding some of those fears and getting to that positive mindset. I forgot to point out our affirmation today is I open, which is a great one for pushing. I am opening. And before we go, I wanted to make sure that I mentioned left the workshop. The workshop is still available to sign up. I would love to hang out with you guys in that workshop. So sign up if you're like thinking, I don't know, it might be worth it, but I'm not sure. I'm going to make it worth it. Believe me, it's going to be a good workshop. So supporting her /workshop. And yeah, great evening, you guys. Thanks for joining me. And I'll see you here next time tomorrow. If you're coming to the after the class, after the class practice session is after the class there. See you guys tomorrow. Bye.